All right, let's talk a little bit about the Oregon Ducks. So, right now, if you guys aren't aware, there's a lot of big news shaking up the college football landscape involving a different program, the Michigan Wolverines. But we're going to break down why this is a good sign for Oregon going forward because they had the foresight to make big moves before the story broke. But first, let's give the story for those of you who aren't familiar. This is according to the Detroit News. Michigan football, the nation's number 2 ranked team, is being investigated by the NCAA for allegedly violating rules regarding in-person scouting and sign stealing. The news comes just days before Michigan plays in-state rival Michigan State on Saturday at Spartan Stadium. The Big Ten confirmed the NCAA investigation in a statement issued Thursday and added it has notified Michigan State of the investigation. Michigan coach Jim Harbaugh, in a statement released late Thursday, said he and his staff will fully cooperate with the investigation. I do not have any knowledge or information regarding the University of Michigan football program illegally stealing signals, nor have I directed any staff member or others to participate in an off-site scouting assignment. That's according to Harbaugh. All right, so why does this affect Oregon? Why we're going to talk about the Oregon Ducks? The reality is right now in major college football, the era of the personality head coach is gone, right? That was one of the things that was a mainstay for a long time. You had to have the Woody Hayes, the Bo Schembechlers, the Bear Bryants. You go all the way from the Bobby Bowns and the Joe Paternos, right? There's so many eras or so many big celebrity head coaches that ruled college football, from the Jimmy Johnsons at Miami, the Bob Stoops, the guys like that. Urban Meyer, if you go recent history. Now the smart moves are to hire smart, capable, young coordinators that are good at recruiting. You rewind back a few years ago, Oregon was looking for a new head coach. Who did they go out and get? Dan Lanning from Georgia, a guy a lot of people outside the SEC hadn't really heard a whole heck of a lot about. He was a great defensive coordinator, very solid recruiter. There's a lot of potential big names that were interested and rumored and linked to the Oregon job at the time, or a lot of potential rumors and reports out there that Oregon should target somebody other than Lanning. But this report here, I think, highlights that Oregon has made the smart move. Again, I think Michigan's being unfairly targeted here. We'll have to see how this investigation shakes out. This is multiple investigations have been going on with Michigan. But the reality is Harbaugh has made himself an opponent of the NCAA due to his celebrity-ish status. The smart move to make when you're selecting a head coach these days is to go for smart, capable coordinator and recruiter. The Oregon Ducks have done that, and I think that's why they're set up for success, not just this year, of course, but for the long term, because this will definitely have a negative impact on the Michigan program. There's no doubt about it. Oregon, obviously, with Lanning, is trending in the right direction, even moving off of last week's defeat. Myas, I'm curious what your thoughts are on this and how it affects Oregon, just everything going on with this big breaking story. But I want to remind everyone that there is actual football coming up this weekend. So in the comment section below, give me your prediction. Oregon versus Washington State, big bounce back game for the Ducks. I think so, but I'm curious what you guys have to say. Give us your prediction, final score in the comment section below. But Myas, what do you think of this story and just the, just kind of the shining the light on the right move that Oregon made to bring in Dan Lanning a couple of years ago?
Yeah, Nick, this reminds me of something we talk about all the time, the comparisons of today's college game versus the NFL game. They're mirroring each other a lot lately. Reminding people also, we do have an NFL channel, so go check that one out because we talk about this all the time. This reminds me of the NFL so much. The big personality head coaches, the Sean Payton going to Denver, hasn't really worked out too hot.
For example.
I
Yeah.
would love D'Amico Ryans at the Texans. I would love the McDaniel and the Dolphins. I like, the coordinators kept their head down. Yeah, the geniuses, the smart play callers, all that kind of stuff, working their way up, becoming a head coach there. I think we've seen the proofs in the pudding as far as that stuff goes. I mean, none of the old time, big personality guys, once they leave, really not doing too hot in the NFL anymore. I think it's all about the up and coming young coordinators. And I think that's what Oregon did. That is what Oklahoma has done. Obviously Texas has done something similar. We see all of these teams doing the same type of stuff. I'm not saying that Harbaugh is not a great coach, but what I'm saying is when you get a guy like that, there's consequences that follow it lately. And when you can do what Oregon has been doing with a guy like Dan Lanning, if you compare and contrast the two, I think in the next 10 years, everyone's going to be just as happy with Dan Lanning as they are with Jim Harbaugh at Michigan, with half of the controversy. Because, I mean, this isn't the first time this has happened to Michigan. We all remember the hamburger debacle, whether he bought guys like a McDonald's burger, whatever the case was. Something that, everybody does in college football. Everyone was buying people stuff, recruiting, breaking, bending rules here. But if you're a big name, if you have that target on your back, people are going to go after you fairly or not. So I think Oregon really has made the smart move. And it's just, once you really don't understand how good something is until you kind of see the other options, the shinier options and what the downsides are. And I think we're really starting to see that now here, Nick.
And we've seen other programs make the wrong hire. Look at Texas A&M. They brought in kind of the celebrity head coach Jimbo Fisher from Florida State, and that has not gone even remotely as close as Texas A&M fans want. They're very average at A&M. The reality is the celebrity head coach is not the way to go. Even Lincoln Riley at USC, everyone basically knows that team is basically Caleb Williams and a bunch of just meh, right? So when Caleb Williams leaves, Lincoln Riley and the Trojans, I think they're going to fall apart. The reality is the right move to make in today's day and age, and it's hard because it doesn't look good in the media, right? It doesn't get, all the press. It doesn't get social media buzzing. ESPN's not going to talk to you about it. Honestly, when Dan Lanning was first brought into Oregon Ducks, I really had to remind myself, oh yeah, the defensive coordinator, did he really do anything with Kirby Smart in Georgia? Or was he just a figurehead? What was he actually doing? I don't know. I don't know how I feel about that hire. Now it's clear it was the right move to making credit to the Oregon Ducks athletic department staff, because this is how you define your program success for at minimum 4 years, because that's how long it takes before you can move on to another guy. But if you're going to be successful in the long term, I mean, this could set them up for the next 3, 5, 10, 12, 15 years with what Dan Lanning is doing up there in Eugene. And again, we're not saying that Michigan, they deserve this. We don't even think they did anything wrong. I think the NCAA is being ridiculous and idiotic and frankly downright stupid. They're just taking the fact of Harbaugh being a big name coach, a guy who sticks his neck out there a lot of times, and sometimes is very critical of the NCAA and other things going on in college football, made himself a target. Now he's being attacked for it. I think that's wrong by the NCAA, but this is the real world. This is reality. Oregon and programs like Oregon, but we're going to focus on Dan Lanning here. What do? They just recruit guys. They recruit well. They develop guys. They put a good product out on the field on Saturdays. They have a great scheme, great staff, great department, great program. And it all starts with the hire of Lanning. And I think that's the important thing to keep circling back here, guys, is that as we go into week by week, right? Obviously, you lose to Washington, you prepare for Washington State. Everyone's laser focused on each individual Saturday. But the long-term trajectory of the program, and we talk about it all the time, right? It goes down to recruiting. How good can you recruit? This Harbaugh news will be devastating for Michigan recruiting-wise. And Oregon, who's been cleaning up in the recruiting game, is just one of those programs that's just constantly lurking, constantly grinding, getting the big-time commits. Oregon is trending 100% up in the right direction. I think everybody understands that. And the fact that we continue to see programs like Michigan dealing with some controversy is a sign that what Dan Lanning is doing in Oregon will continue to last further and further into the future.